Alright guys, keep trucking along in this WrestleMania review series. We got WrestleMania VIII, and as of right now, I'm watching Mania 11. So I still got 9 and 10 to do. But nevertheless, this event took place on April 5th, 1992 from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I actually liked this WrestleMania. This WrestleMania gets a lot of hate for whatever reason. I guess it's got to do a lot with the main event. But I love this WrestleMania. I think that this is one of the better WrestleManias. The dark match was the Bushwhackers over the Beverly brothers. Dave Meltzer gave this match a star. How he saw it, I don't know. But I was not able to see it. Reba McEntire sang the national anthem. Alright. Shawn Michaels opened up the show against Tito Santana, or El Matador. Michaels gets the win. Pretty good opening match, I think, to start out. You had Tito Santana, a man that was in the very first ever match of WrestleMania history against the Executioner. That was his only win at WrestleMania history until he would win the dark match the following year. But his only main card win was WrestleMania 1. This would be his last actual televised Mania appearance, as he would take on the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. You had The Undertaker defeat Jake the Snake Roberts, and Undertaker was a face at this point because he had won the WWF title at Tuesday in Texas. Then the title got vacated at the Rumble, he won it at Survivor Series 91. Then Hogan won it at Tuesday in Texas, and they vacated it. So during this time, Taker became a face by feuding with Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake was leaving. Taker would go to 2-0 at WrestleMania. An alright match. It was what it was. I'll give it a star. The ending of the match came when The Undertaker gave Jake a tombstone on the outside. And another thing to note about this, I told you WrestleMania 4 through 7 would all be 4 hours. This is the return of the 3-hour Manias until Mania 16, or WrestleMania 2000. So it's less of a show I got to watch. That's why there was only 9 matches on the show. Well, 10 if you count the dark match. Then we get to something that was really good. WWF Intercontinental title on the line. Bret the Hitman Hart taking on Roddy Piper. I love this match. I think this match was absolutely phenomenal. You had blood get added into the mix, and it was something that was just very, very unique at the time because you really didn't see a lot of guys, Blade, whatever. Bret Hart gets the win over Roddy Piper via pinfall. I mean, these two guys just had tremendous chemistry in the ring against one another. These two men could wrestle any venue, anywhere. You could have one guy face, one guy heel. It didn't matter who it worked, and these guys could just go at it. I believe that during this time, both men were faces because Piper beat the Mountie at Royal Rumble 92 after the Mountie had beaten Bret Hart. And Bret would get the rematch for the Intercontinental title and would win it here. And what a way to indeed win it. You'd have Sgt Slaughter defeat Big Boss Man. Virgil and Hacksaw Jim Duggan would defeat the Mountie, Repo Man, and the Nasty Boys. Half a star. Nothing of note. This is just a boring 8-man tag to kind of cool you off from what happened, to cool you off between the last match and the next match. But yes, it was what it was. Then you get into the match that I really wanted to talk about. The absolute classic. Should have been the main event. Macho Man, Flair. For the title. Phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. Like I said, Piper and Hart was good. This match was good as well. This should have been the main event over Hogan and Sid. Why they had Hogan and Sid main event, I'll never understand because Flair didn't win the Rumble. But Flair won the Rumble. He also won the title. And they originally named Hogan the number 1 contender and then moved it to Savage for whatever reason. And then, who knows? God knows what. But Ric Flair was during this time making ploys with Miss Elizabeth and was saying that Macho Man's wife wanted some of him. And yeah, so Macho Man didn't like it. And Savage went after him and would end up winning the title on this night. So it would be Macho Man's last real title reign before he would leave the company to go to WCW. That was kind of a last great hoorah for the Macho Man, and I think that it was very, very appropriate that they did it the way that they did it, with him beating a guy like Ric Flair. It really elevated Macho Man Randy Savage's career, and it really helped his development. Mania 4, he beats DiBiase in the tournament, but it's all about Hogan. It's all about Hogan. Here, it was all about him. Here, it was all about Savage, and it was all about, you know, him winning the title. Even though, in a way, you would have Hogan still main event. And that was to me the thing that I'll. But I think, like I said, this match and the Piper Hart match are two of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. That Piper Hart is actually a very underrated match, I think, in WrestleMania history. Both of these matches I gave over 4 stars. I gave this one 4.5 and that other one 4.25. And this is one of the reasons that this Mania, I don't know why this Mania gets so overlooked. I think it does have a lot to do with the main event or the last 2 matches on the show. But this Mania as a whole is really not all that bad. Tatanka defeated Rick the Martel. Tatanka was kind of on the rise here. He would compete at WrestleMania 9 against Shawn Michaels in one of the only good matches on that show, which we'll get to in the next episode. Tatanka, I understood Tatanka's gimmick, and I understood they wanted to make him, this unstoppable guy. But they ended up not being able to do that with him. They ended up having it to where Tatanka would not be a unstoppable force, and I think a lot of that had to do with his count-out win over Michaels at WrestleMania 9. The Clique doing a whole bunch of the politics and a whole bunch of, everything else that was going on in the company at the time. You were not quite in the steroid trial, but you were getting close to that point, and you were trying to build new stars. You had other guys coming in. You still had the Brets, the Pipers, and then you still had the Hogan, Savages, Michaels, Flair, and you were just building the new generation. And it was just, 92 is one of those years, phenomenal SummerSlam, great, best Royal Rumble match, I think. Decent Survivor Series. And I think a great WrestleMania, so they kind of knocked all 4 pay-per-views out of the park. They had to try and do what they had to do. Now, these last 3 matches on the show really bring this show down. You could easily say duds for all 3. These last 3, hell, you could say last 4 matches bring this show down. It brings this show down just a hair. I really do like it though. I do like this Mania. Natural disasters defeat the WWF Tag Team Champions, Money Inc. In case you didn't know who the natural disasters were, it was earthquake and typhoon. They defeated Money Inc. here, who were the WWF champs, but it ended in countout, so the titles didn't change hands. This match was brutal to go back and look. I mean, I don't know. I gave that match a dud. Next up, you get a match that I gave a 1/4 of a star, and the only reason why is because of the man who technically debuted but didn't. He was at Mania 5, but this was his actual first Mania as himself, and that was Owen Hart defeating Skinner. The match was only a minute, so you could really consider it a dud, but it was good to see Owen Hart in his first Mania match. Of course, Mania 9 he wouldn't be involved, but Mania 10 he would have a big capacity, being in a big, phenomenal, outstanding match against Bret the Hitman Hart, which I'm excited to go and review WrestleMania 10 when I finally get there. I think that it will be, good. I'm waiting to review WrestleMania 10 I'm a little bit ahead with me watching them instead of my reviews, because I like to be ahead as far as watching it, because then I have less to watch and all I gotta do is do the review of the show. So Mania 8 is still kind of fresh in my mind, even though at the time I'm doing this review, I watched it like 3 or 4 days ago. So it's still somewhat fresh in my mind, but I still have to remember kind of some stuff. Main event time. Hulk Hogan defeats Psycho Sid by DQ. This match is brutal. And they go back to the Rumble when it came down to Sid, Hogan, and Flair. And I always thought Hogan was a dick for doing this, but you had Hogan get eliminated, and then he pulled Sid out with Flair tossing him out. That was a very dick move by Hogan, but hey, it was what it was. It set up this story, this main event. From what I gathered, Papa Shango was supposed to come out and attack Hogan. Sid was not supposed to kick out of the leg drop. Papa Shango was supposed to come out and cause the DQ finish, in case Hogan wanted to come back, it would protect the leg drop. But for whatever reason, Papa Shango missed his cue, didn't make it in time, and they chose to go with Harvey whipping him. And then Papa Shango finally shows up and says, "Oh, well, I'm here. Whoops." Luckily, Papa Shango would end up having a good career for himself. He's now in the WWE Hall of Fame. And he would end up becoming the Godfather. So, yeah, he ended up having a good career for himself. But just seeing Papa Shango in the capacity of the main event of WrestleMania 8, and then working the dark match of WrestleMania 9 against Tito Santana, that really shows you how far the mighty fall when you really do think about, that in the sense of, hey, this guy really competed in a dark match after being in the main event the year before. But, nevertheless, Papa Shango and Sid are attacking, they're attacking Hogan. And then all of a sudden you have the Ultimate Warrior come out. And Ultimate Warrior's helping Hogan. After 2 years ago, these guys were main event against one another. Here, I guess they were, Warrior was doing the right thing and helping Hogan. And it was just ultimately set up. I believe Hogan and Savage would face one another. Oh, not Hogan and Savage, excuse me. Warrior and Savage would face off at SummerSlam. So I'm going to look at this. Couple pros, I think, in this show. I loved Michaels versus Tito Santana. I loved Piper versus Bret the Hitman Hart. And I loved the Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ric Flair. That stuff all worked. That was stuff that I think really, really did work. Some stuff I didn't like in this show was Hogan versus Sid, the Natural Disasters versus Money Inc., and then I said Owen Hart versus Skinner just because of how short it was, but you can also make an argument for the 8-man tag. My final grade for this WrestleMania would be a B+. Now, the reason I give it a B+ is because I think it has two of the best matches in WrestleMania history. And I think that on its own should give it a lot of merit. I know the last quarter of the show is bad, but when something's good, it's good. This is a Mania that if you really only want to watch the 2 4-star matches, I would also recommend watching maybe Taker and Roberts. But hey, that is what it is. But guys, holy crap. Wait until the next episode when we watch WrestleMania 9. Not looking forward to that one. Anyway, guys, hope y'all enjoyed the review. Your boy Killer Cam is out. Peace.